What's up, guys? My name is Josh, and today I'm bringing you guys a video of my favorite plays for the Week 16 NFL slate of games. I'm recording this on Christmas morning. Merry Christmas. I just finished opening gifts with the fam, and I'm trying to get this video out before the Saints-Vikings game Friday afternoon because there are a few lineups I really like for the weekend slate as a whole, not just the new games this week. And I think you guys can really take advantage of that. And these are just kind of guys that I'm higher on than consensus for both season long and daily fantasy. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. And the first thing I wanted to discuss was less of a specific player and more of a game that I'd like to focus on. And that is the Titans and Packers. And this chart right here that I just pulled up on the screen, this is per Ian Hartitz on Twitter. He works for PFF. His content is really, really good for anyone who follows fantasy football or football at all. Definitely recommend giving him a follow. He puts out these graphs every week that are super, super helpful for any sort of fantasy football. And this one right here is the EPA per play for all the matchups for Week 16. And the higher numbers indicate an efficient offense versus an inefficient defense, the matchup there. And the lower numbers, so you'll see, for example, Pittsburgh and Indianapolis, indicate two good defenses and two relatively mediocre offenses, as you see for Pittsburgh and Indianapolis, both in the negative. And the opposite is true for offenses. So the numbers in green, the high numbers, indicate an efficient offense versus an inefficient defense. Both Tennessee and Green Bay are extremely efficient offenses, and both are below average defenses. Tennessee's has been really bad, not just below average. As we'll see right here, this one right here, you can see both Green Bay and Tennessee to the far right. This is EPA per play. This is via Ben Baldwin on Twitter. Again, very good stuff, very helpful for daily fantasy for sure. But you see Tennessee and Green Bay all the way to the right, extremely, extremely efficient offenses. What does this mean? More points, more opportunities, more fantasy football points. This is a week where I'm totally in on Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown even with Jair Alexander playing at an elite level, Corey Davis, and Davante Adams. And, it's not exactly great analysis to say start Davante Adams, but I think this is a week for daily fantasy, whether it's cash games or GPPs, that you really want to get Davante into your lineups because this Tennessee defense has not been good. And I also expect this Tennessee offense and Ryan Tannehill to put up a lot of points. And I wanted to take this opportunity to recognize how freaking good Ryan Tannehill has been, man. Not just this year. Since taking over last year as the starter, he has been he's been amazing. People want to think of this offense as, Derrick Henry. They kind of want to poo-poo Tannehill, handing it off 30 times a game or whatever they want to say. But since taking over as the starter, Tannehill has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. He has been a top 7 fantasy quarterback, I believe. He's been a legitimate QB1 in fantasy since taking over. And just in real life, man, if you just watch the games this year, he's a legit. We need to start talking about Ryan Tannehill as a legitimate elite quarterback in real life. Another post-Adam Gase success. What do you know? And again, I just pulled this up. This is Tennessee's efficiency. Number 1 in the NFL. You see that ahead of Kansas City, ahead of Green Bay. This is the most efficient offense in the NFL, led by Ryan Tannehill. He has been a legitimate MVP candidate. I pulled up another graph from Ben Baldwin right here. This is completion percentage over expected, and the EPA per play. And he's been hyper efficient. He's been a legitimate elite quarterback, and we seriously need to start recognizing Ryan Tannehill as an elite quarterback. And this is a game. I think a lot of points are going to be scored. I think you could fire up Ryan Tannehill for 6,900 on DraftKings. I think he's a really good play. I have a couple lineups with him and Corey Davis, and I really like stacking that with Davante Adams on the other side. I think this is a spot where Davante is going to have kind of a ceiling game, as he has very often. And, this is absolutely a game where I think a lot of points are going to be scored, and Derrick Henry might go off for 3 touchdowns, and Tannehill could have an underwhelming fantasy day. But I think this is a great spot for Ryan Tannehill, as well as Corey Davis, A.J. Brown, Jonnu Smith even. I'm not sure his status. I think he should be good to go. But this Titans offense has been cooking, man. I just wanted to kind of talk about them for a little bit first, more before I talked about specific players that I liked. But Titans offense has been absolutely cooking. Ryan Tannehill, the god. Free Sam Darnold from Adam Gase. Maybe we'll see a similar thing. But yeah, this offense has been absolutely cooking. And get all of these guys into your lineups for sure. Next up, I wanted to discuss my absolute must start of the week, and that is Miles Sanders. $7,000 on DraftKings, and I'm not sure how much he is in FanDuel, but I can pretty safely say that you should probably play him on FanDuel season long. Fire him up. Since Jalen Hurts has taken over this offense, he's gotten the opportunities again. He's continued to look good on the ground. Another thing with Jalen Hurts is these rushing lanes have been opened, like big time for Miles Sanders. And we kind of know this always happens with mobile quarterbacks. This happened with J.K. Dobbins at Ohio State, as well as in the NFL with Lamar Jackson. Even David Montgomery, man, what has he been doing the last month? He's been a league winner. He's 25 points a game. Like he's basically like the RB1 overall. What has happened with David Montgomery? Ever since Mitch Trubisky came back, those lanes have opened up wide. This was what happens with mobile quarterbacks because when they run these zone reads, it forces these edge defenders, some of the best athletes on the field, to kind of hold their ground, and it leaves gaping holes in the middle of these offenses. And Miles Sanders hits home runs like nobody else in the NFL right now. In the entire NFL in this season, 2020, there have been 11 runs of 60 or more yards. Miles Sanders has 3 of them. I believe it's right here. Yeah. Miles Sanders has 70 yards this season. Miles Sanders has 3 70-yard runs in the NFL. He is a legitimate home run hitter. Who do they play this week? Dallas. This chart right here that I pulled up is yards before contact in every matchup this week allowed by defenses. And this is kind of a combination of good offense and bad defense. So what you're seeing on this chart right here, it's not saying that you can look at the Philadelphia and Dallas matchup. It's not necessarily saying that Philadelphia has been an elite run offense, but it's the combination of Philadelphia's offensive line has been a pretty good run blocking unit, and this Dallas defensive line has been horrible against the run. They have been absolutely horrible, and I believe since Jalen Hurts has been under center, Miles Sanders is now at he's had 38 opportunities over 2 weeks. So 7 of which are targets, which are obviously more valuable. And I'd like to see him get even more of those. But 38 opportunities the last 2 weeks. This is no longer a committee. This is Miles Sanders' backfield. Dallas is allowing, absolutely, as you can see here, the most yards before contact in the league on average. What does this mean? Miles Sanders, these running backs, the defense isn't even touching them. These offensive lines are plowing through this Dallas defensive line in front 7. And I think this is a really, really good spot for the Philadelphia offense as a whole. Obviously, this Dallas defense isn't very good. I think Jalen Hurts is in a good spot this week. I'm going to talk about another Philadelphia Eagle in this video. But definitely, Miles Sanders is my must-start of the week. He's like the 6th highest priced, I believe, on DraftKings. He's a workhorse. He's one of the few on the main slate this week. Lots of guys not on the main slate of games. I obviously just talked about it. Derrick Henry on Sunday night. And, yeah, man, I think Miles Sanders is the guy that you got to get into your lineups this week. Philadelphia, they've been a lot better. Jalen Hurts is giving a boost to this offense. Miles Sanders is free, and Doug Peterson, as soon as Carson Wentz left the field, is utilizing him in a much better way. And this offensive line has been a lot better recently. They're getting healthier, and I think Miles Sanders can have a pretty strong last 2 weeks, and this is definitely a great, great spot for him. And I also liked, I wanted to throw this in here real quick. I think this is a good spot for Amari Cooper as well. He typically performs better in home games, and I know Darius Slay is probably going to shadow him, but Darius Slay has been, I believe per Player Profiler, he's been good this year, but he's not been like some elite shutdown corner, and Amari Cooper is obviously an elite route runner and elite talent. I think this is a pretty good spot for him. I also like Michael Gallup for 4,100. I'm kind of just throwing these guys in here. They're not elite plays or anything like that. But I do like stacking a guy like Miles Sanders with some of these Cowboys receivers. Specifically, I like Michael Gallup, and I think Amari Cooper is an interesting play in tournaments. You have to be ready for a floor game from Amari Cooper, obviously. But I think for GPP tournaments, both FanDuel and DraftKings. I think Amari Cooper's kind of in an interesting spot. But definitely Miles Sanders. Absolutely a guy I'm playing in cash games, season long, GPP, you name it. Next up, and unfortunately, this is another one not on the main slate of games, but can still get him into lineups in season long and for a whole weekend lineup, and that is Marvin Jones Jr. And you'll see I also have Leonard Fournette on the screen. I'll talk about him in a second, but Marvin Jones Jr. has 44 targets the last 4 weeks. That doesn't seem real. I'm going to assume he leads the league since then. There could be someone with more. I know Austin Eckler gets freaking 10 targets a game for some reason. But Marvin Jones has been he's been really good the last 2 months of the season. He's been pretty consistent. He opened the year a little slow. I was pretty high on him coming into the year, and he opened, even without Kenny Galladay, it just didn't seem like something was right there. He didn't look good. He looked old. And the Lions' offense was just not very good. But the last 2 months, he's been performing. He's been getting the targets. He's been performing. And without Kenny Galladay, he's been an absolute target hog. Like I said, 44 targets the last 4 weeks. And this Bucs defense, very importantly, is likely to be without Carlton Davis. A lot of people might remember him from the Chiefs game, allowing Tyreek Hill to have a historic performance. But Carlton Davis has been good this year. And he's been the only good thing about the Bucs' pass defense this year, as they have not been very good against the pass. This is a pass funnel because they're very good against the run. I don't love DeAndre Swift here, although Dalvin Cook was able to have a pretty good day against them, I believe 2 weeks ago. But this Bucs' run defense is pretty strong, and their pass defense is not very good. And they're likely to be minus Carlton Davis, who I believe should have been a Pro Bowler, in my opinion. And you'll see on the left of screen, I pulled up the EPA per play graph again because Tampa Bay's offense is going to score a lot of points here. You can see their number is second highest only to Green Bay's and Kansas City's. But this Tampa Bay offense is going to score points against a really, really bad Lions defense. They're super banged up. Even their starters haven't performed great. I want to say Desmond Trufant might be out. Don't quote me on that. But I know Jeff Okuda's out. This defense hasn't been very good, and they're very banged up. And I think this Bucs offense hasn't been great lately. I think this is definitely a get-right game. And Ronald Jones is out, man. And I think Leonard Fournette is in a really good spot for 5,500 on DraftKings. I know this isn't on the main slate, but for 5,500, I think he's someone that in cash games for sure you want to get into your lineups because last week without Ronald Jones, he had 14 rushes and 5 targets, I want to say. And he had 65% of the snaps. So without Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette leads this backfield when Ronald Jones does not play. And he's not playing in this game. This is a horrible run defense. It's a horrible pass defense as well, for that matter. And I love Leonard Fournette this week. That's why I brought up that graph, is to show that I do believe Tampa Bay is going to score a lot of points. And with that, I think Marvin Jones, in a game where they will probably be trailing most of the time, is in a really good spot against a porous Bucs secondary to probably get 10 targets and maybe connect on a touchdown and probably get 100 yards because 2 of the last 3 games he has 100 yards, 10 catches, and a touchdown. And this is another matchup that he could easily exploit. Stafford is going to play in this game from what I've seen. And he's just been really good overall. I kind of want to talk about Marvin Jones a little bit as well because people formerly know him as like a boom bust. The way we see Marquise Brown is how a lot of us used to see Marvin Jones. And that's not who he's been this year. He's actually been very consistent. And I think he's a nice cash game play this week. And not bad for tournaments either. I also wanted to talk about Mike Evans. I think he is in a good spot to potentially have a ceiling game here against, again, this Lions defense isn't very good. I think stacking him and Leonard Fournette is probably a pretty good idea for cash games. Both guys have a lot of touchdown equity. I think Fournette is probably pretty likely to score. I think Evans also very likely to score. And this Bucs offense is going to score points, and this is a matchup that I think you definitely can take advantage of in terms of for fantasy. I have a few lineups that are for the whole weekend. I believe in all of them. I have Marvin Jones. He's very cheap for cash games. For tournaments, I would be wary because he is going to be owned quite highly. His ownership percentage is going to be very high. but I think he's a great play for cash games this week. And I wanted to finish the video with some tight ends, which it's been rough this year for tight ends, but I actually like a couple of these guys this week outside of obviously Waller, Kelsey, and my boy George Kittle is back. Very excited to see him tomorrow, even though it's a lost season for San Francisco. Probably my favorite player in the NFL. Excited to watch him back tomorrow. But with that being said, I really like both of these two guys, Dallas Goedert and Noah Fant, this week. But two very athletic guys, both also being utilized in the red zone heavily. And their young quarterbacks are relying on both of them. Goddard has, I believe, 14 targets the last 2 weeks with Jalen Hurts, 7 targets a game. Hurts is leaning on him in the short area of the field when no one else is open, and obviously their receivers right now, it's really just a bunch of Jags. I know Rager's an interesting young player, but Goddard is probably the best receiving weapon they have there right now, and he's been really good. Hurts, like I said, 7 targets last 2 games. He hasn't connected on a touchdown yet these last 2 games, but I do think it'll come. This Dallas defense, again, isn't very good. This is a game that I expect Philly to score 30 points. I mean, I expect a good game from Philly here. I think Goddard's a good play. He's only 3,600 on DraftKings. I have him in both of my tournament lineups, I want to say. Or, sorry, cash game. I'm in both my cash game lineups. And I think he's in a really good spot to have a good game. I'm stacking him with Miles Sanders because I do believe that those guys have a lot of touchdown equity. And another guy I like this week is Noah Fant. And Fant was a guy I was really high on coming into this year. I drafted him in my main league, my home league. And he was kind of like injured on and off, but he's actually only missed, I believe, 1 game. And he's coming off a career high 11 targets, and I think I want to say he had like 8 for 70 and a touchdown, something along those lines. But we know Fant's a really talented guy. I was very high on him coming out of Iowa. I think you could even argue that he's like a better receiver than T.J. Hawkinson is, and this Chargers defense has not been very good. They're very banged up. Derwin James obviously out for the year. Bosa's been banged up all year. I think he's good to go. But this defense is banged up, and it hasn't been very good. And the Denver defense, more importantly, is horrible. I expect Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler to score a lot of points here. I expect Denver to be playing catch-up. And I would not be surprised if Fant saw another 10 to 12 targets and a couple of red zone targets and probably get in the end zone. And he has the big playability as well. Obviously, Noah Fant, very athletic guy. I think we saw him last year rip off like a 70-yard touchdown on a tight end screen. But he's one of the few tight ends that's a big play threat, that is a true field stretcher. And I really like Noah Fant this week. He's 4,800. He's a little bit on the pricey side. But I think for tournaments, he is a nice play. But really, both of these guys, I have both of them in a few lineups, and of course, you got to get obviously Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, those guys. But these are 2 guys that are cheaper that I like, and yeah, that's really about it for the video. These are all guys that I'm kind of, I would say, higher on the consensus, whether it be for DFS or for season long, and I'm trying to get all of these guys into my lineups this week. So with that being said. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Joshua702. That's likely to change soon. I'm kind of not rebranding, but I'm going to make my social media a little more professional and focused on this channel and another channel I plan on creating soon. And good luck, Merry Christmas, and hope you guys have a great day. See ya.